ready to move forward with Mr. Lee Rubin. Lee, welcome, first-time guest on the program.
Yes, excited to be here. Thanks, Phil.
All right. So, Lee, I got something I want to read here. 5 components of extraordinary teams. Part of your keynote speech. Machines are evaluated based on the output of the entire unit, not the impressiveness of their individual parts. Extraordinary teams, like great machines, require certain components that hold their pieces together. While most organizations focus exclusively on building the skills of the individual members, and I would say I agree with that. I see a lot of individual team member building. They send one supervisor out of 10 to a program and dip them in to get trained, and then they expect everything to be fixed. So I see a lot of that. You go on to say elite organizations invest in the stuff that transforms a collection of talented individuals into an extraordinary machine-like team. All right, let's start with that. Tell us more.
Yeah, as you commented, I think most organizations really focus on the individual skills of those that are employed there, right? They send this person out for training, or they send this person out for leadership development, and they don't look at the whole, right?
Right.
And if we're going to develop the team, we can't just have the sprinters in the relay race just focus on their sprints. They've got to work on that baton exchange, right? They've got to work together as a team. And I think the elite organizations really try to develop the team as a whole unit and not just the individual members.
So this is not a new concept when we say the sum of the parts is greater than, or the sum
The
of
whole,
yeah,
the whole
the
is
whole,
greater than the sum of the
the
parts.
sum of the parts. That's it. Thank you. And I remember the first time I heard that, right? And I heard that on the football field for the first time for me. And then I heard it in business, and I was like, oh, well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
And it was a very profound statement at the time. Now I'm like, well, of course, everybody knows this, but we don't practice it, right? It's a hard thing to practice.
It is.
So when you're working with organizations, tell us, how do you help get that organization to the sum of the parts?
Well, the first is looking at it as a full entity. That that whole perspective is really critical, and then it's developing. Well, it's hiring for and developing within the culture some of those intangibles, what I call the connective tissue, making sure that within our culture we've got people who communicate well, who are willing to make individual sacrifices, and I think most importantly, and this is one of the key elements of my talk, is trust. Developing trust within an organization. If I think trust is the stuff that separates a collection of individuals, a collection of individual talent, and brings them together and makes them a whole unit, a team.
So tell us more about the trust. So organizations either have trust, they don't have trust, they're trying to gain it, or they're losing it. I have found as a CEO, trust is extremely hard to get. It's extremely hard to hold on to.
It is.
Right? Because in one slip of the moment, I lose the trust of the entire organization unintentionally.
Absolutely.
And it's unforgiving. It's unforgiving unless I've held it for a long time.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard a quote recently: "Trust is built in drops, but lost in buckets."
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, it takes time. It takes effort after effort, consistency after consistency to build. But it's tough. One misstep and that trust can be lost.
Yeah.
But here's what's interesting about your comment is that from a leadership perspective, you're always concerned about the trust of the team towards the leader. But great organizations, high performing teams, it's not just in that direction vertically, it's also horizontally, because team member A has to trust team member B, has to trust team member C. So it's trust horizontally as well within those team members, because we can all trust, using a football example, we can all trust our coach, but when we're on the field, we've got to trust each other. And
Right.
I think the only way to get there is through open and honest communication. And yes,
Yeah.
that's developed because of the leaders' openness and honesty and creating that culture. But there's got to be that horizontal trust as well, because I can't do my job as effectively as I should if I don't trust the people around me.
So how do you suggest, or what's your experience, if I can ask, how you help create that? So, and I'm listening as a student right now, Lee. So as an organization, I can work as the leader to have the team trust me. I step away. I go off campus. I'm on vacation. I'm
Sure.
somewhere else. And now I look back and I'm like, the team isn't working together, and the team isn't trusting each other. Um, how does an organization go about creating that unified trust broadly versus vertically?
Sure, sure. I think this, so when I share my keynote, this is my foundational principle. It's how I start my talk. That teams exist because there's a challenge or an opportunity that's too big for one person to handle alone. And the whole point is establishing the fact that we need each other, that there's a level of interdependence that's involved, and that I, as an individual, cannot just come to work, put my blinders on, and do my job. That I'm a
Yeah.
part of a bigger picture. I'm a part of an ecosystem that is dependent on the other pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so within that, we're creating a sense of ownership and a sense of accountability. And so now I'm not just going in doing my job for my paycheck. We're connected in such a way where I need you to do your job and you need me to do my job. So it's not just, okay, the boss says here's my assignment. No, we need each other to get this job done. And so that's the foundation of this culture where, listen, I can speak up, or I can hold you accountable, or I'm not offended when you hold me accountable, because we need each other to get this bigger thing, this common goal done.
You know, I like that one person, necessarily needs that. They need the rest of the team in order to do their job. So we're dealing with a few things here in our organization. We have more projects right now in our business here at AIM that are built upon team collaboration, helping organizations move forward, than we've ever done in my previous 12 years. And yesterday I was speaking with a few of our managers about it. I'm like, why is this happening? Like, how come all of a sudden I have managers within the organization, unsolicited by me, working together and delivering even better solutions, on their own? And what it is, first is they like each other.
Yep.
Um, and they found that they have better success when they use the knowledge and experience of each other, in doing that. And when they're doing that, they're delivering even a much better product for our members that we serve each and every day. And our members are getting the benefit of it, and they feel really good about that. Now,
Absolutely.
I'm not sure I created that. I'm going to take a lot of credit for it, but I'm not
Absolutely.
sure I did it. They have done this on their own, and they started working together. And I'm kind of dissecting it, going, what's happened here? And I'm so proud of the efforts, but it doesn't happen by accident now, does it?
No, no. And that's the point that I was making earlier. High performing teams, extraordinary teams, it does not happen by accident, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be intention, there's got to be purpose built into this. You've got to understand, every team member has to understand that this is bigger than I can do alone. This is bigger than I can do by myself. And I'm not sure which comes first, right? The chicken or the egg. Do they
Yeah.
like each other? Do they like each other first and then figure out, okay, how can we collaborate? Or do they understand, listen, I need you.
Right.
And
Right.
because I need you, I respect what you do. I respect your contribution to the team. I respect my dependence on you. And it's amazing. Relationships change. Relationships are adjusted when there's a level of dependence, right? If I don't need you, I treat you however I treat you. But when I understand that I can't be successful unless you're successful, it changes the dynamic of those relationships.
It definitely does, and I have lots of thoughts. We don't have enough time for me to share
No,
all my thoughts in this because I absolutely love team dynamics. It's what I think really has motivated me in the field that I serve. But I want to get to some of our chat comments here, Lee. I'd like to get some of your opinions. I'll read some of them out loud for
absolutely.
everyone. There's a firm belief in reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. With trust, teams have a more open conversation, less conflict to resolve, and ideas and thoughts are freely given because team members feel valued. I really like that comment there in particular.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I've shared my talk, the team building talk, with sports teams. That was the genesis of this talk. Then with
Yep.
corporations and professional associations. But I've also shared it in marriage workshops, right? Because
Yep.
if we approach our marriage properly, that's a team as well. And there's something that comes up often when I'm talking to families or to couples. The issue is rarely the issue. Most
That is
most
so true. That is so
most
true.
most times it's communication about the issue, right? It's how we communicate. And whether it's sports, family, or business or faith, it doesn't matter. Most people, when we think of communication, think about how well they articulate information, but they neglect to understand that communication works in two directions, right? It's just not how we give information, it's also how we receive it, and the whole
Yes.
idea of listening to understand. And so when we can figure out that open and honest, and as you mentioned, transparent communication, we're intelligent individuals. If we can avoid getting hung up on how we communicate and really listen to understand, I think we're intelligent enough to figure out most of the issues.
Yeah. No, I like, again, it's an old cliche, listening to understand, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Not, well, you said this thing, and then I'm
that's
going to
right.
quote what you said to prove a point or to say, I fixed that thing you said. Well, you didn't understand what I was trying to say. That's just a simple example. I'm
Exactly.
really trying to say this. And like I say, the issue that we think at hand is usually not the issue at all that we need to go away and work on. Here's a couple other comments. Our chat line has grown, just blown up, Lisa. I want to include you in some comments on it. Just transparency has come up a couple times as a big word. Any thoughts just on transparency?
Yeah, I'm big on open and honest communication. It's got to be respectful and professional, but it's got to be open and honest. That is the only way trust is built. If we feel like our team members, our leadership, or if we're leaders that our team members, those who report to us, so to speak, are not being open, not being honest, not being transparent, we'll be functioning in an environment where we can't give our all, our best. We will continue to protect ourselves, and we might be competent, but we'll never be extraordinary.
Yeah, I think transparency is really tough for our leader, isn't it? And we had on our program here, we had the real Ted Lasso. I don't know if you ever watched Ted Lasso or not,
I have.
but we had the real Ted Lasso on. But what made that program so, I think, so heartfelt and took the country, over in its leadership qualities was he was just so authentically transparent. And he really talked about how he felt. And that created deep rooted trust, understanding, and he wasn't putting himself above anyone else in that. And when we talked with Coach Donnie Campbell, who is the character that the show was based upon, and Donnie talked a lot about just being transparent and helping people understand, look, we're all humans trying to do something here and we all live a life. Another thing that we've often talked about, it didn't come up in our chat this time, but we talk a lot about the personal drives the professional.
Absolutely.
What I have going on everywhere else in my life drives who I am at work. Any thoughts on either of those types of comments?
Yeah, we're humans, right? And as well as we think we can compartmentalize, we're humans, and I think it works in both directions, right? How things are at home impacts how things go at work, and how things go at work impact how things
How
go at
things
home.
go at home. Oh, you better
Yeah,
believe that.
absolutely. It works in both directions. And when we're part of organizations that understand our humanity, and leaders who are empathetic, again, not just leaders, but team members who are empathetic, um,
Yeah.
it allows us to be who we are. And a phrase I use, we used for years when I worked in HR, we're able to bring our entire selves to work, and not have to hide certain realities
Yes.
if there's issues at home, right? To be in an environment and culture where we can be honest and say, hey, listen, I've got some stuff going on here that's impacting my performance. And
Right.
being a part of an organization that understands that and creates that psychological safety where we can be open and honest and not feel like we're in jeopardy of being let go or restricted or held back. Yeah, that transparency is critical.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please share it with your colleagues. Forward our invites. Share the link aimea.org/This Week at Work, or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment, like LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere you are. And you can be part of the show. Send your questions and comments anytime to info@thisweek.work. We'll see you next week, 7:30 a.m. Central Time, when we discuss what's happening this week at work.